Hey guys, thanks for clicking on this video. Today I wanted to do a quick video on some of the towing upgrades that I've done to this Chevrolet Silverado. It's a 2002 Chevrolet Silverado. It's got the 5.3 with a 342 rear end. Get this, it's got a four-speed transmission. It's 2018 and there's trucks being made with 10 speeds. This thing's got a 4-speed. So this is partly the reason why I wanted to do this, is because I think you might be in a situation where you're maybe buying a new RV like I did. Now you're going to be towing significantly more often and more weight. And of course, if you're getting a big boat, then this might apply as well. But here's some of the upgrades that I wanted to show you that I did that made me get the most bang for my buck out of this truck. Also, it's going to make it more comfortable on you, and I'll show you some of those upgrades. But also on the truck, you want your truck to last as long as possible, because remember, when you're towing, you're really putting a lot of strain on your vehicle, specifically the transmission, the cooling, the motor, your suspension. So you want to make sure you're setting it up to get the most out of it. So here we go. The first upgrade that I did, I kind of did these all at the same time, but one of the first upgrades that I did was the tow mirrors. If you know, these are not the standard tow mirrors. The tow mirrors, or I'm sorry, the standard mirrors. The standard mirrors are just a little bit smaller. They don't go as wide. What's really nice about these, and I'll put a link, they were rather inexpensive. They're easy to take on and off. But what's really important is you have to remember that your RV, or even your boat, but your RV in this case, is going to be wider than the vehicle. And so what you want to be able to do is see around it. And these are able to extend out so that you can see around it. So that's really helpful. The other thing is that you're going to get much bigger mirrors, and in this case, 2 mirrors. The top one is going to allow you to see normal driving conditions and so on. And the bottom one, you're able to angle it so that you can see a little bit closer to the ground, see where your tires are, or set it up however you want. But nonetheless, it offers more options over the stock mirrors. So it's a relatively easy upgrade to do, and I really recommend it. Now, I do want to tell you that there are the ones that are extendable, meaning you have your stock mirror and then you like clip it on and then it has another little mirror. I just tried those with another truck that I have. I'm not a fan. These are definitely way better given the situation, but I'll tell you more about that in another video. Be sure you have a hitch. Of course you're going to need it, but be sure you have a hitch on your stock truck. If you don't, you're obviously going to want to install one along with the wiring for your trailer. The reason I say this is because I know I've got several friends that have trucks that don't have hitches, which means they don't have the trailering package on their particular truck, which means a lot of other things, that you don't have the wiring, you don't have the hitch, you probably don't have the transmission cooler, things like that. Every truck varies. So you want to make sure you have that. The other thing is suspension. So one of the things that happens is that's a lot of weight on the back of your truck. Plus, when you're camping like I am, I've got this full with coolers, bikes, tools. I've got this full of stuff. So you just by that, you're already putting a lot of payload on it. Plus, you've got all your passengers and yourself. And then you're going to add the trailer on top of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll tell you to get a weight distribution hitch, and that's going to help out. But in my case, that wasn't enough, and I got one of these Hellwig helper springs. I'm going to go inside because it's a little bit quieter. All right, guys, so I got the helper springs because what was happening is when I was driving, going down the road, it was sagging just a hair, not too much, but what was happening is the front end was getting a little too high, and what would happen as a result, and I kid you not, the front end just looked like it was floating. Whenever I'd hit bumps, you could tell the weight was lifted off of it and it would just float, and I didn't have as much control over it, and that was it's actually kind of dangerous. So once I put the helper springs on, it really solidified it and planted that front to stay down so that you have more control, and that's a safety thing. Relatively inexpensive. You can install it yourself. I really suggest that you get that if you can. Now, my older pickup It's a 2002. It did not come with a brake controller, which was pretty normal for that age truck. So I ended up going with a Prodigy P3, and it's a Takancha Prodigy P3, and really it just had some phenomenal reviews. It was really easy to install and not too expensive. But let me tell you, the reason you want to have a brake controller is because you want to be able to, again, use the brakes on the trailer to help stop the trailer, because you really don't want to be putting all that pressure on your truck brakes, because now you've got, added payload, your own truck, and plus the RV. That's just too much. So you want to have a brake controller, and that'll make your brakes last longer, and it's a lot safer, and that's really important, especially when you got a lot of valuables and your family. Easy to install. I will say that it does not come with this harness. Instead, you have to buy this harness separately. Mine was like $10, but it's specific to your vehicle. Again, it's just plug and play, and you're ready to go. I didn't have a lot of experience with brake controllers before, but I can tell you these are so easy to use that it takes braking out of the equation. You can worry about other things, but not braking. It is phenomenal. One thing that I forgot to address about those tow mirrors is that some people will say that they shake a little excessively. I will agree that they shake more than your standard stock mirrors, but they're still totally usable. They're not to the point where they're not usable. They're still fine. So don't worry so much about that. One other thing that happened, if you'll notice on this particular Chevrolet Silverado, you'll notice that it doesn't have a temperature gauge for the transmission. It's got one for the engine, but not the transmission. So I went ahead and added one, and I wanted to know what my temperatures were. I was having a little bit of a heating issue going on, so I was thinking, well, if that's heating up, then the transmission must be heating up. So I added this, but at the same time that I added this, I also added a transmission cooler. So a couple of things that I wanted to break down on that. Number one, the reason you want a transmission cooler is because it's going to make your transmission last longer. It's going to run cooler, and that's going to be better for your transmission, and it's going to make it last longer. The wear and tear on it isn't as bad. A lot of people emphasize what engine you have, etc. I really think a transmission is underappreciated, because those are the real, that one's doing a lot of the work and it doesn't get attention. And with mine being a 4-speed, I'm going to try to help it out as much as I can. So, second, I wanted to tell you that mine came with a stock transmission cooler. But when I added the second one, I did just that. I added it instead of removing the original and putting the bigger one in. I did it, I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if that's in line, in other words, in line with the other one, or if it's series. I don't know the terminology. Feel free to put it in the comments below. But essentially, when it leaves the transmission, if this is the transmission, in a normal stock cooler, it would go into the cooler, it would cool off, and then it would go back into the transmission, right? The way I did it is the hot fluid leaves the transmission, goes into the transmission cooler, stock, then it goes into the heavy duty, which is more than twice as big. Then it returns. So it not only gets cooled once, but it gets cooled twice even more and goes back. For that reason, my temperatures are super, super cool. Now remember, I didn't have the temperatures before, but from what I hear, a lot of people are talking about, higher hundreds, lower 200s, 220s. I haven't broken 200, even 100-degree heat, towing up the hills in the hill country. I just haven't seen it. It's been under 180 easily, 185 easily. So that's a phenomenal upgrade. I do want to tell you about one upgrade that I did. It's not necessary, but I added I played around with electric fans for a little bit. It did not work out, so I had to go back to my standard belt-driven fan. But the issue I was having is that the AC wasn't really cooling. And if I left it at idle, if I was in the truck in the summer and I left it idling for a little while, I would see that the temperature gauge would start to creep up. Not overheat, but creep up, and I didn't like that. So I added a helper fan, and I'm going to show it to you on a picture. And it was relatively easy to do, and this is the override switch that you do, so you force it on. And of course in Texas, as hot as it is, I always have it on. but it automatically turns on when your AC turns on, or it's got a temperature probe. This is an additional thing that I did so that I made sure it was always on. But let me let you hear it. All right, so so if you can hear that air pumping. What that allows me to do is be at idle, because remember the clutch fan doesn't needs RPMs to pull a lot of air, and at idle you're not doing that. So that accessory fan was added. Keep in mind that from this generation truck from '02 to 2018, they've gone from doing the same thing that I did. I know the Dodge Rams had the clutch fan and they had an accessory fan just for your condenser, to now to the point where all of them, except for I think the Tundra, I could be wrong, I don't know about the Nissan, they don't have fans anymore. They don't have clutch fans anymore. They have all electric fans. So in this particular one, I went with the clutch and I added an accessory. It's a 16-inch lowboy is what it's called, by Flexolite. I recommend it. But that about does it. I know there's some other things, but I'll show you in other videos. I'm going to do videos of these individual things on their own. But again, I wanted to do this video so that if you're thinking about buying an RV, or you're going to be towing on a regular basis, I really hope that the things that I showed you of what I've done to my truck have given you a little bit of an idea of what you can do. It's relatively inexpensive. You're going to tow in a little bit better comfort. You're going to be towing in a little bit better comfort, and you're also going to make your vehicle last longer. You're going to go get the most out of your vehicle, which is really, really important. And so I really recommend it, that you do some of these upgrades, not only for safety reasons, but to get the most out of your vehicle. And hopefully this gives you a little bit more confidence. Now, let me tell you, I really encourage you to leave me a comment below, ask me questions, anything that I can help you with. Feel free to reach out. This is my way. I've used YouTube on so many things for so many reasons. The reason I'm doing this channel and this video is to kind of give back and kind of give you my experiences that I went through, and hopefully they help you out. So in this case being the towing with an older vehicle. So those are some of the upgrades that I did. Hope that helps you out. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video.